Hello again, everybody. Red here of Half Century Collecting Sports Cards, and today I am going to do some more in my series of my countdown of my favorite cards. I will get back to part 2. Thanks to all those who watched part 1 of my Hank Aaron run. This is just a little small taste of all the Aaron cards that I got, but I'll be doing part 2, the Atlanta Braves section, coming up. Before we get into today's cards, we'll show a little rundown of the last time I did this of my favorite cards. Here they are. We showed the 58 Hires Root Beer Willie Mays. We got a Diamond Stars, Bill Dickey, a Tolateros, Hilton Smith, and then my national pickups, the couple Jackie Robinsons there, the double play, Johnny Mize, Slaughter, the 41 Gaudy Mel Ott, and then the card I got just after the National, my first DeLong, a Freddie Lindstrom. Before I start, I just got to tell you I'm back from my Boundary Waters trip. For those of you who have experienced the Boundary Waters, it's a place that I've probably been going for 30 plus years, and it's where you got to portage in all your stuff. Our last day we went through 7 portages, and that means carrying your canoe, all your packs. And it's a lot easier now than when we went when my kids were really little. Now they're ages 18 to 26. We went with all 4 of our kids and 2 significant others, which was really cool. Probably the coolest part of the whole trip. Show you some pictures. Now here's some pictures from the first time we took our kids. We just had 2 at that time. Our youngest was still in diapers, so you have to pack the diapers in and pack them out. You can't leave them there. Some pictures from that. And then found this picture after a portage coming up back to a campsite. My wife and I on our honeymoon, and my daughter took a picture showing the 2 of us what we look like now coming up off of a portage onto the campsite. So let's look at a few of my favorite cards and talk a little bit of baseball history. So this is the 1909 American Caramel. That's from the E90-1 set of Eddie Collins, one of the best second basemen of all time. Now this is the set that contains what's considered the rookie Joe Jackson card. If you look at the back, talks that it is from the American Caramel Company of Philadelphia. So it came with caramel. There it says there were 100 subjects. They actually found there's 108 different subjects and 122, I think, with variations. This Collins, it's a affordable card. I've got it raw, and I'm guessing, graded. Maybe get a 2 or 2.5 or something. Maybe back's pretty clean, and that's only like a $300 card. So an affordable card of one of the all-time greats. It came with caramel. But a little bit about Eddie Collins. He was one of those clean socks from the 1919 World Series with Chicago. But before that, he was an Ivy League educated guy from Columbia. Played football and baseball at Columbia. And then he signed with Connie Mack, playing some semi-pro ball and a little bit even with the A's at age 19. But he wanted to keep his college eligibility, so he talked to Connie Mack and he said, let's come up with a different name. And they called him Eddie Sullivan, or Ed Sullivan, so he was the initial Ed Sullivan. But they caught on at Columbia that he was playing semi-pro ball, so he was ineligible his senior year, and so instead that year he coached. But he did graduate there. Then Connie called him up after he graduated. 1909, first full season. He teamed with this guy, Frank Baker. Later got the nickname Home Run. And the two of them became part of that $100,000 infield, they called it, with the A's. Collins hit .347 at age 21 that first full year. And then the next year, he led the league in steals with 81, and he helped the A's along with Baker and then their good pitching staff. Chief Bender in that, to win titles 3 of the next 4 years. He won the MVP, at the time they called it the Chalmer Award, in 1914. And then Connie Mack offered him to be the highest paid player in the league, but the Federal League was going, and so Collins wanted more. When he turned it down, Connie sold him to the White Sox, and then he became a great player with the White Sox, helped them to a 1917 world title, and stayed with the White Sox all the way through 26. If you watch 8 Men Out, you get the sense of, he was kind of a goody two-shoes-ish type guy, which he really was. With the White Sox, didn't want to get involved in that scandal. It sounds like he probably knew something fishy was going on, although he did not know the details because none of the players ever came to him about it. But he was suspicious, and I think he talked to Comiskey, the owner, in 1920, thinking, so it wasn't just the World Series that they threw, but they also threw the 20 season. And that season, he told Comiskey to kind of wake up, trying to look into what's going on here. And then, eventually they found out about it and threw those 8 players out of the league. But Collins went on playing with the A's for, through 1926, I think. And then he went back to the Philadelphia Athletics for Connie Mack's second run at World Championships. And in fact, he was on the team when they won in both 29 and 30. He didn't play in either one of those World Series because he was getting on the older side, but he was on the roster and did play some regular season games. So he was with the A's for 5 World Series titles, and he's the only non-Yankee to ever play with one team and win 5 World Championships. And he actually won 6 because he won one with the White Sox as well. He ended up retiring with over 3,300 hits, but only 45 home runs. Is the lowest total of any 3,000 hit guy. 741 stolen bases, a .333 lifetime batting average, a .424 on base percentage, and an all-time record of 512 sacrifice hits, more than 100 more than anybody else. And he had 124 career WAR. Eddie Collins. And next we've got another top 10 second baseman of all time in his 1968 Topps card, Rod Carew. Now, yeah, his 67 costs more, but this is the first card that just shows Carew, and it looks fantastic. Carew was my favorite player growing up. I mean, it was between Lou Brock, Hank Aaron, and Rod Carew. They were all my favorites, but he was the guy I saw and listened to on the radio every day. The guy entering his prime as I'm, into my 12, 13, 14 age kind of years. So just paying, really close attention. And I really specifically remember that magical 1977 season that he had. And within that, a magical specific game in late June, 1977. I was 12. It was Rod Carew Jersey Day. So giving out Rod Carew jerseys to everybody in the stands, and it was a sellout at Old Metropolitan Stadium. I wasn't there, but I was in our kitchen living room where we had a radio sitting on the stove that I listened to and kind of running around as the action of the game went on. It was quite a game against the White Sox. Starting pitcher Steve Stone for the White Sox. Twins jumped on him early, but Bill Butler, who started for the Twins, got jumped on as well. Tom Johnson, pitcher I remember from St. Paul, came in relief. He actually went the final 6 2/3 innings in relief of that game to get the win. It was 19-12 was the final score. That year, Johnson was in the top 10 in wins and saves. All his wins, I think 16 of them, were in relief. So quite a year for Tom Johnson, not much before or after that. But Glenn Adams, another guy, had a big game. He had 2 home runs, a grand slam, 8 RBIs in the game. But the guy who stole the show, or actually was the show because it was his jersey day, was this guy, Rod Carew. He went 4 for 5 with a double, a walk, a home run. Drove in 6 runs in that game, scored 5, a Twins record. And at the end of the game, he was hitting, late June, halfway through the year, .403, and they flashed on the scoreboard. I remember him talking about it. You know, Rod Carew is now hitting .403, and he comes out with a curtain call, and I don't know how many curtain calls he had that game. But just sweet, sweet moment. Now, he ended up cover of Time Magazine, cover of Sports Illustrated with Ted Williams, talking about hitting 400, which he didn't do. Here's his 78 card, another really cool card, but shows his final stats for his 77 season, his MVP season, 239 hits and 100 RBIs and a .388 batting average. I'm going to show a few clips here of Carew.
The performance of the man wearing the real number 29. Carew had 4 hits, drove in 6 runs of his own, and by day's end, his average stood at .403.
I received 5 or 6 standing ovations. To me, that's the ultimate thing that has happened to me in my career.
Quiet of Minnesota, far from his birthplace in Panama or the noisy streets of New York City where he was raised, Rod Carew has become baseball's best batsman, and in 1977, he may be about to make his most lasting mark on the game by hitting 400.
I don't really try to do things that I'm not capable of doing. You know, I know my capabilities and how far I can go and what I can do with a bat. I've disciplined myself over the years to know that I'm not a home run hitter, so I'm not going to swing for the fences. I try to use the whole field because I think I can get more hits this way instead of just trying to be a pole hitter and hit the ball one place.
People call Carew a singles hitter, but how many singles hitters can do this? Hit the ball into the upper deck at Yankee Stadium. Such prodigious clouds are usually reserved for the likes of Babe Ruth or Mickey Mantle, but for Carew, it's just another base hit.
And my favorite commercial of all time.
Hit 388, the best in 20 years. He led the league in hits, triples, and runs scored. He won his 6th batting title, was voted most valuable player, and made the cover of Time. But Rod Carew wants more.
I want that Gold Glove, and I want it bad.
Rod Carew, he just gets better and better.
Then, after that, just one more season, after the 78th season, I learned about the business side of baseball, as owner Calvin Griffith didn't want to pay Sir Rodney what he was worth and traded him to the Angels. I didn't hold it against Rod. He was still my favorite player, still followed what he did, and he finished well over 3,000 hits, a .328 lifetime batting average, and 81 WAR. But I got to show this one. Rod Carew. Now, the last card I want to show feature is, and I'm just going to do this quickly because this video's gotten pretty long already, and I've already talked about him with a different card. But this is the 1915 Cracker Jack Rabbit Marinville card. This is early in his career, coming off a year. Led the league in defensive WAR. He was a great fielding shortstop. He had over 30 career defensive WAR. He led the league in defensive WAR a few years. I know that wasn't a stat back then, but looking back, it is, and it still shows that he was a great fielding shortstop. Reason he's in the Hall of Fame, not because of his hitting. He did have over 2,500 career hits, but it took him over 10,000 at-bats to get there. He was just a .258 lifetime hitter. But look at this card. Shows the perfect palms up, palms down, eyes focused, point of contact. You got that great deep red background that I love on these Cracker Jack cards. The 15s where the backs are upside down from the card, and talks a little bit about his career. He played a long time, 23 years, but that's my last one. My Rabbit Marinville. I do got to show what I'm wearing for this video. And we'll take a look at all 3 of the cards today. Let's look at today's cards and the ones from last time. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Look forward to seeing you again in the near future.